Mormon family. They quit practicing polygamy 120 years ago. Big difference from us and them, similar to Catholics and Protestants.
She's committing and saying, hey, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. She still spits up. She has colic. She's a little baby.
They're always saying that every story has an end, but this one didn't have an end anyone could have anticipated. Season 20 of Sister Wives was meant to be about peace, closure, perhaps even forgiveness. But what it gave us instead, it provided silent stares and a truth too heavy to deny. When the cameras went away, something far larger was taking place in the background, something that producers didn't want you to know. And it all started when Kody shut up. Not to one wife, but to them all. The man who had fought so hard for unity, for family, then suddenly would not return phone calls. The group chat is dead. His visits are unannounced. The tension is thick enough to choke on. Christine, having been so far removed from the drama, began to feel it first. Her phone would ring with calls from fans. Do you miss them? And Christine didn't respond. Instead, she observed from a distance, in silence, as the family she once thought of as her own began to self-destruct from within. Because this wasn't about jealousy anymore. It wasn't even about love. It was about truth. Truth and money. The truth about what the show had become. For years, the cameras had portrayed them as a messy but lovable family, but the cracks, they'd been present for a long time. Long before Robyn cried, long before Mary grieved, long before Janelle quietly defied. Season 20 didn't make the drama, it uncovered it. And what was uncovered in those last uncut moments would redefine how fans perceived Sister Wives forever. Beneath the production meetings and scripted confessionals, arguments over footage were brewing. Who said what to whom, who was reduced to tears, who stormed off set, and, above all, who received what pay. Rumors began to circulate on the crew. Numbers were being tossed around. Paychecks were being compared. Then one day, a report accidentally released found its way into the wrong hands. A plain spreadsheet that listed what each of the wives had been paid while filming. And when Robyn noticed Christine's number next to hers, something within her broke. That is the point where the tone of the season shifted. You can spot it if you pay close attention. Episode 10. Robyn's interview chair segment. Her tone becomes acidic. Her voice shakes. She discusses unfair editing and distorted stories. But behind camera, she was enraged. Not at the editors, but at the reality the numbers unveiled. Because Robyn always felt she bore the emotional burden of the show. The loyal wife, the placid one, the one who remained. But Christine's departure had altered all that. It had made people adore her more. Whereas Robyn turned into the villain, the pay gap only fueled the fire. As the production went close to completion, a war was silently waging. Janelle refused to participate in family shoots altogether, only appearing when her contract called for it. Mary's interviews became chilly and scripted. And Robyn, she made demands. If this is what it is going to be like, I want control of my footage. She had one producer say off. Mike, I want the edit to show what really went down. But what really went down wasn't what TLC wanted to see. They wanted tears. They craved chaos. They craved a finale so jaw-dropping that no one would ever talk about it until years later. And they got that very thing. For as Robyn was battling to salvage her reputation, someone else was preparing to spill it all. An old crew member, one who heard too much. He was with them when cameras were off, but microphones remained on. He listened to the hushed offers, the irate telephone calls, the secrets that never aired, and he made up his mind that it was time for the truth. He reached out anonymously to a small online outlet, a fan-run blog that had been covering Sister Wives for over a decade. The email he sent changed everything. You've only seen half the story. It began. Attached were screenshots, recordings, and transcripts, Raw, unedited moments that the network buried, and among them, one clip stood out, a scene cut from the season 20 finale. In it, Kody is seated across from Robyn. His tone is low, soothing, nearly unnervingly detached. "I can't repair this anymore," he says. "You asked for the attention, you took it. But now you have to deal with what goes along with it." Robyn's face grows stern. "You think this is on me," she retorts. "You wanted this lifestyle too." Kody reclines, shakes his head. "No," he speaks quietly. "I wanted a family. You wanted a show." The video was but a minute, but it sufficed. Sufficient to make the fans doubt everything. Sufficient to make the network go into a panic. In hours, legal threats were issued, videos removed, accounts cancelled. But the deed was done. The truth had been revealed. From that point on, the real ending of Sister Wives Season 20 wasn't simply another reality television finale. It was a reckoning. Because for the first time, viewers weren't seeing a family attempting to weather fame. They were seeing a family ravaged by it. Christine had been silent long enough. She understood that the network was after control of the story, but she also understood that something greater was brewing. Something that could not be edited or contained any further. When the anonymous leak landed online, her phone would not stop ringing. Messages flooded in from fans, reporters, even old friends on the set. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. Was it true? Had Kody at last spoken the truth they all knew? For Christine, it was not the clip that had shocked her, it was what she saw in Kody's eyes. That serene, defeated gaze. It was not anger or frustration. It was realization. The man who had argued for polygamy with every fiber of his being had at last realized what it had done to them. And Robyn, seated opposite him, had become emblematic of that failure. Christine replayed the leaked video over and over, hearing every pause, every sigh. She knew this wasn't a script. It wasn't for television. It was raw, real, painful. And for the first time, Christine didn't feel sad. She felt vindicated. The truth she'd attempted to share for years was finally irrefutable. But while Christine felt peace, Robyn felt panic. Within Robyn's house, the mood was different. The instant she noticed the leak, she phoned TLC's legal department. Her voice was shaking, not with guilt, but with fear. "You must put a halt to this," she insisted. That clip wasn't meant to be. But even she was aware of the reality. Once something is posted on the internet, it never goes away. The headlines were rapid. Robyn Brown exposed in $12 million reality collapse. Sister Wives ending sparks legal chaos. Fans demand TLC transparency after leaked scene. Within 48 hours, every corner of social media was ablaze. Hashtags trended. Old interviews resurfaced, and viewers began piecing together the pattern, the lies, the manipulation, the cover-ups. But what most people didn't know was that behind the chaos, there was a second leak, one that hadn't gone public yet. One of the crew members near the post, production had saved copies of internal memoranda. They weren't notes regarding editing or sound cues. They were about money. The report itemized sponsorship agreements, endorsement fees, appearance bonuses. All of the dollars made during season 20 were recorded, and alongside Robyn's name was a figure that made Christine's stomach flip: $12 million. The precise amount Robyn had earned through brand collaborations, property investments, and royalties from licensing of the show. It wasn't against the law, but it was immoral, particularly because the other wives had earned less than a fraction. Christine didn't desire revenge, but she desired truthfulness, so she took a choice. She went live one evening on social media without notice. No makeup, no production team, alone. In her kitchen, eyes fixed on the camera. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she started softly, "but people need the truth. You all watched us for 20 seasons. You all believed in our story. But what you saw wasn't the entire story." She breathed deeply, and the chat overflowed with hearts and comments. "I left because I couldn't be part of something that only served one person," she said. "It wasn't about love anymore. It was about control and money and image and the rest of us." Well, we were props. The video went viral within minutes. Millions saw it. Articles appeared. Fans argued over every statement. But what actually ignited the internet was the silence that ensued. Robyn said nothing. Kody said nothing. TLC said nothing. And in that silence, people knew their answer. The family was not merely split. It was done. In private, though, Robyn was crumbling. She met alone with attorneys, network representatives, even PR experts. "If you remain quiet, this will pass away," one of them counseled. But Robyn was not the sort of person who could remain quiet. She required control. She required people to hear her out, so she filmed her own reaction, cinematically staged, perfectly lit. Tears welling in her eyes, voice shaking just so as to appear sincere. "I am unfairly being singled out," she said. "I've given my all to this family. It pains me deeply to be portrayed as greedy or manipulative." She hesitated, resisting emotion. "I am made out to have wanted money. I didn't. I wanted love. But it didn't go over as planned." Fans cut through it. They labeled it scripted, phony, PR spin. The insults were vicious. "You craved the fame," one posted. "Now deal with it." Robyn had lost control of the story, and she knew it. But there was one person who hadn't weighed in yet, Kody, and when he finally did, the whole story darkened. At a reunion taping never televised, Kody sat facing the host, gaze heavy, shoulders hunched. The crew called the mood tense, almost suffocating. The first question was blunt. "Do you still love Robyn?" He paused. For almost 10 seconds, he didn't say anything. Then, in a low tone, he responded, "I don't know." The ensuing silence was astonishing. Robyn's face lost color. Christine's taped response came next, her slowly shaking her head, whispering, "That is the truth." The video was never intended to be broadcast. Yet the transcript leaked weeks later. And when it did, the world went wild once again. The man who had fought for Robyn, no matter what, had finally confessed what fans already knew. But why? What destroyed Kody's allegiance? The answer, as it turned out, was something hidden deep in that same $12 million secret. The money web that Robyn spun without disclosing anything. When Christine departed, the finances of the show had been divided equally between the wives. But after she left, Robyn renegotiated her deal behind the scenes. Not only for a larger paycheck, but for control over the content. She received a percentage of ownership of the production rights. So every episode that aired deposited money directly into her bank account. And when Kody found out, when he learned his wife had outsmarted him financially, it snapped something within him. The partnership illusion was over. She was no longer his wife. She was his rival. The network attempted to mend fences, to reinterpret the situation as family tension. But the reality was too large to ignore. Robyn's riches, her secrecy, her tyranny, it was all now out in the open. Fans began calling her reality television's richest villain. Kody, on the other hand, was the fallen patriarch, and Christine, she was the surprise heroine, the woman who got out before it was too late. By mid-season, the executives at TLC were freaking out. Ratings were skyrocketing, but so was the backlash. Behind closed doors, producers debated whether to renew or end it. "We're past the point of no return." One reportedly said, "This family isn't real anymore." But someone at the table disagreed. "That's exactly why people can't stop watching." They replied, "They want the truth now." And so, despite everything, Sister Wives was renewed for another season. But it wouldn't be the same, because as season 20 concluded, and the last confessional unfolded on television, viewers could sense it. The sadness, the fatigue, the reality. Robyn sat by herself, sobs streaming down her cheeks. "I tried to hold this family together," she whispered. "But perhaps it was never meant to last." The screen went black, but what viewers didn't realize was that as soon as that scene ended, the cameras continued to roll. Robyn got up from her seat, wiped away her tears, and muttered something softly to herself. Something the crew alone could hear. "They'll never understand," she said. "None of them will." And perhaps she was correct, because what followed next, after that final revelation, was the actual conclusion. The one that everyone wasn't ready for, and it would start with a solitary message, delivered from an unknown number, to Christine's phone. Christine gazed at her phone as the message flashed across the screen. "You don't know the whole story. No profile name. No picture. Just those 6 words." She almost dismissed it. It could have been a troll, a joke, another fan gone crazy, but something about it seemed different. The text had come from an encrypted number, one she'd never received before, and there was a photo attached, a document. Not a screenshot, not an edit, but a scanned, watermarked internal document, with the title TLC Season 20 Faye Financial Adjustments. Confidential. Christine paused. She didn't want to open Pandora's box again. She'd done her bit, spoken her truth, moved on. But curiosity is not something you can quiet, particularly when it is connected to years of anguish. She clicked on it, and what she read validated every suspicion she had ever had. It wasn't simply that Robyn had been better paid, she had been promised better, on purpose. In the contract there was a provision titled Image Integrity Compensation. Under that provision, Robyn was paid a stability premium for upholding the public cohesion of the family following Christine's leaving. In essence, she was being compensated to perpetuate the illusion, paid to smile while there was chaos, hired to prevent Kody from walking out. The figure beside her name, $2.5 million a season. Christine's name hadn't even appeared on the list. The first thought was incredulity, but the sender wrote again. "There is more. You were never meant to see this." Christine's fingers trembled as she wrote back. "Who are you?" No answer. Just another message with an attached video file. It was grainy video, obviously taken from backstage. Kody and Robyn were in a private meeting, with no idea the camera was rolling. Robyn moved in close to him and whispered something about postponing the legal filing until the season is over. Kody nodded. Very slowly, his eyes tired. The camera pulled close in on Robyn's tablet screen. It displayed a draft contract, TLC logo at the top, and the words Executive Partnership Renewal. Christine's stomach coiled. This wasn't manipulating. This was scheming. Robyn had been negotiating for herself months before anyone else had even considered the fact that the show was going to end. She wasn't playing checkers. She was playing chess. And everyone else had been her pawns. The video cut off with no warning, but Christine could still hear her heartbeat ringing in her ears. She wasn't angry this time. She was afraid, because if that video got out, and it wouldn't only ruin Robyn, it would bring down the whole production. She understood what that would do. Contracts would be forfeit, lawyers would descend, suits, fines, reputations, all at risk. But before she could decide how to proceed, her phone rang again. You have to speak the truth before they do. At the same time, on the other side of town, Robyn sat on her couch amidst stacks of paperwork. Her home was silent. Kody was gone. He had walked out 2 days prior after yet another fight about the leak. He'd hurt things he couldn't retract. Phrases such as, "You used me, and you made this business." For the first time, she didn't respond. She simply sat there as she watched him leave. Now that she read through the headlines, something had changed. The story wasn't about betrayal or love anymore. It was about money, and that was the only thing Robyn couldn't lie her way out of. Her lawyer rang. "We have to get ahead of this," he said. The network is freaking out. Someone leaked financials, and they're tracking it back. Robyn's heart raced. What do you mean leaked? She asked. What finances? But she already knew deep down. She glanced at her tablet, the one she'd used in that meeting months before, and felt the world closing in. Kody, on the other hand, was conferring with producers behind closed doors. They were hoping to save the finale, make the camera drama out of real-life mayhem. We can't just wrap it up with everyone walking away. One producer opined. We need closure. We need emotion. We need truth. Kody bitterly laughed. You want truth, he retorted. You can't handle truth. The truth is, we were all sold a lie. I lost my family for ratings. The room fell silent. The cameras were no longer rolling, but the drama had barely started. That evening, Kody drove blindly down the desolate streets of Flagstaff. He considered it all, the vows, the trust, the attempts at keeping something alive that never existed. And within the simplicity, he understood something he'd never acknowledged. Even to himself, he didn't forgive Robyn because he couldn't forgive himself. He'd allowed her to become the face of everything he'd failed to guard. The family, the love, the dream. They weren't lost by one woman. They were lost by his pride. As he sat parked beneath a dim streetlight, his phone buzzed. A message. No number, no name. Only one line, Christine knows. His heart constricted. He dialed Robyn immediately, but it went to voicemail. Robyn, it is me. Call. We have a problem. He hung up and gazed out the window, the words cycling through his head. Christine knows. While all this was going on, Christine sat in her living room, looking at the contract on her computer. She couldn't believe how far it went. Robyn hadn't negotiated her own contracts. She'd also negotiated royalties on streaming sites, book rights, and spin-off possibilities for the future. Christine kept scrolling. The signature line contained two names. Robyn Brown and a TLC executive whose face she didn't know. But at the bottom in pen was something that chilled her to the bone. Approved by Kody Brown. She shut her eyes and breathed out, so he knew. He had known all this time, all the tearful speeches, all the apologies, all the, I didn't know what was going on. It was all an act. She had stood up for herself against deception, while the man she shared her life with, for decades, silently reaped the rewards. The betrayal stung worse than any fight they'd ever had. It wasn't about money now. It was about trust. Hours later, the same unknown sender texted her again. You can't remain quiet any longer. Christine retyped. Why are you doing this? Who is this? This time, the response came quickly. Someone who is aware of what they did to you. Someone who seeks it revealed. Included was one more video. This one from a reunion rehearsal that never made it on the air. It featured Robyn and Kody in a hushed argument backstage. The sound was distant, but one phrase was clear as a bell. Robyn stated, "They think they're the victims, but this was always business." Christine stiffened. The impact of that statement crashed over her like a wave. Always business. That is the crux of it all. The show, the family, the suffering. Never about attachment. About commerce, masquerading as love. She now knew why nothing ever made sense for so long. By dawn, Christine had decided. She was no longer going to be the silent one. She contacted a journalist she respected, one who'd been covering the story from season 1. I have evidence, she stated bluntly. But you must keep me anonymous. The journalist consented. In days, there was an article thorough, accurate, incriminating. It did more than just reveal Robyn's earnings. It laid bare the manipulation of the whole storyline. When the story came out, the world blew up once more. Sister Wives expose Faye. How greed broke a family. All the outlets covered it. TLC entered emergency negotiations. Lawyers were sent in. Social media became a battleground. Fans who had previously defended Robyn began to turn on her. Kody went into hiding. Christine, while remaining quiet publicly, observed the blowback in silence, at last having the weight lifted from her shoulders. But her relief was short-lived because 2 nights later, while going through her messages, she received a new one. Same unidentified number. This time it read, "You think it is over? Check your bank account." Christine's breath stopped in her throat as she gazed at that figure. $100,000. It glared at her in her account like a radiating curse, a sum too big to be ignored, but too risky to be touched. She gazed at it for a few seconds, her heart pounding. The message had been from the same cryptic number, and now the motive was clear as day. Someone needed her silenced. Someone strong enough to transfer cash that left a trail of nothing. Christine's gut screamed to call her bank, the police, anyone, but she knew on some level that wouldn't do any good. This wasn't a matter of legality anymore. This was about leverage. She hammered at the screen with her fingers. "What is this? Who sent it?" There was no response, just the mocking, blinking cursor on the screen. Christine sat in stunned silence, her fingers clenched around her phone, her mind racing ahead of her. She considered deleting the story, walking away before things got any worse. But then another idea seized her. What if she did nothing? What if she let them pay her off, just like they'd paid all the rest? The thought turned her stomach. Robyn, on the other side of town, was coming apart at the seams. She'd gone without sleep for days. The expose had gone viral. Every talk show, every podcast, every entertainment source had picked it apart bit by bit. She was trending for all the wrong reasons. Robyn Brown, the $12 million manipulation machine. It was everywhere. Her people attempted to spin it, but even her most staunch defenders were beginning to doubt everything. The contracts, the payments, the leaked footage, it all pointed to a picture too vivid to ignore. And Kody was gone. His phone dead, his car disappeared. His friends not telling her where he'd ended up. She attempted to keep it together, but her hands shook every time her phone vibrated. She knew what they were saying, that she'd ruined the family for money, that she'd used everyone, that she'd made their lives into profit. But that wasn't the whole story. Not to her, she spoke to herself in a whisper. They don't get it. I did what I had to. Her lawyer's words repeated themselves from the last time they'd spoken. If this keeps going on, Robyn, they'll subpoena your accounts. Everything. She'd hung up before he'd gotten to finish. Because the thing was, if they knew what was actually in those accounts, they'd see checks that hadn't come from TLC anywhere. There were also deposits, silent ones, identified by shell accounts and consultancy companies. Others that started surfacing immediately after the negotiations for renewing the show. But before she could even reflect on these, there was a knock on her door. She stood transfixed. It was late, far past midnight. She paused, then moved tentatively. "Who is it?" she said, trembling over the words. No reply. Another rap, this one louder. She carefully pushed the door open, and her heart almost gave out. In front of her stood Mari. Her eyes were icy, her body stiff. They hadn't seen each other for months. Robyn whispered, "What do you want?" Mary didn't answer immediately. She just stepped in, shutting the door behind her. "You need to act like you know," Mary stated matter-of-factly. "We all know what is going on now." Robyn's throat closed up. "You don't know the whole story." But Mary interrupted her, tone cold as glass. "No, Robyn, I do. I read the same papers. Christine did. I watched the video. You lied to all of us." The air was thick with tension. Robyn attempted to stand firm. "You think I wanted this. You think I wanted to be the bad guy." But Mary wasn't fooled. Control is what you wanted, and you achieved it, until today. Robyn's hands shook. "They paid me money to keep the family intact. I didn't ask for it. I thought I was doing the right thing. By concealing millions while the rest of us were living on peanuts. You didn't help, Robyn. You perpetuated the deception. The room fell silent. Then Mary took a step closer, her voice dropping. You ought to know something. Christine is not the only one speaking with the press. You've got a more serious problem brewing. Throughout the state, Christine sat on her couch, gazing blankly at her laptop screen. Her email had blown up since the article was published. Requests for interviews, podcast offers, book agent overtures. But all she could think was about the deposit. It wasn't so much the money, it was what it said about them. They knew where she banked. They knew how to find her directly. Whoever was responsible wasn't merely attempting to silence her. She was being watched. She grabbed the phone again, browsing through the old numbers, and hesitated over one. Janelle. Weeks had passed since the two last spoke, but Christine knew that she could not go through this by herself. She pressed call. When Janelle replied, she sounded strained. I was wondering when you'd call, she stated. Christine paused. Did you receive anything unusual money messages? Janelle was silent for an instant. Yeah, she then said. $50,000. I figured it must have been an error. Christine's heart dropped. It is not an error. Someone's attempting to bribe us. In the meantime, at Robyn's residence, her phone vibrated once more. This time it wasn't a reporter or a lawyer. It was an anonymous text. Mary talked. You're next. Her chest tightened as she read it again. Her mind raced. Who was sending these messages? Who had access to this information? It couldn't be Christine. Christine didn't have the connections or the resources to orchestrate something this deep. That meant someone on the inside was turning against her. Someone who knew everything. Hours later, when the sun was rising, a new article fell online. TLC under investigation for financial impropriety. Sources indicate executive collusion. The world lost its mind. It wasn't the Browns anymore. It was the network as a whole. Anonymous insiders were spilling more and more, drawing a picture of years of doctored contracts, fabricated stories, and secret bonuses. And at the center of everything was Robyn's name. By afternoon, Robyn's attorney phoned again. They're pulling the plug. Robyn TLC is canceling the last episodes. They're erasing season 20. It is finished. Her body numbed. What about Kody? She asked quietly. There was a silence. He is cooperating with investigators. Her heart plummeted. She understood what that implied. Kody had turned against her. She whispered he wouldn't. But she knew he would. That evening, Kody sat with a producer in private. You are actually going to testify? The producer asked. Kody gazed into his coffee. I have to. I can't keep protecting her. The producer leaned back, letting out a sigh. You realize this is going to ruin her? Kody nodded slowly. It already has. The following morning, Christine got another message. No name, no text, just a file. She hesitated, then opened it. It was a snippet of a security camera dated the previous night. Robyn alone in her living room, surrounded by shredded papers, sobbing silently. The clip cut off in the middle, but there was a line of text beneath it. This is what truth costs. Christine couldn't budge for an entire minute after viewing the video. She was stiff, her throat parched. Something was different in this clip. Something not like a threat, but a warning. She played it back again, picking up small things that she'd never noticed before. The envelope on Robyn's desk, the open computer, the voices outside as distant as the last notes of a dying song. It was someone who wanted Christine to notice Robyn not as the antagonist of the narrative, but as another piece in an infinitely larger game. And out of nowhere, an idea struck her, a nauseating epiphany she hadn't had the courage to entertain previously. What if Robyn wasn't the mastermind? What if she was just the face of something much deeper, something corporate, something that needed her to take the fall while they stayed hidden? Christine grabbed her phone and called Janelle again. We've got it wrong. she said, her voice trembling. It's not just her, there's someone else behind this. Janelle sighed. I know. I've been digging too. The money didn't come from her personal accounts. It was from a production shell company, one with roots traced back to a TLC executive by the name of Marcus Doran. Christine's eyes grew wide. She had seen that name somewhere before, on one of the early contracts Robyn had insisted on reading herself. It wasn't chance. It was a sting. Robyn sat by herself in her home office, scrolling through the never-ending tempest of news headlines. Robyn Brown takes legal action. Robyn's millions targeted for investigation. Sister Wives star gets turned on by fans.